My brothers and sisters, may the Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. After Jesus had revealed himself to his disciples and eaten breakfast with them, he said to Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" Simon Peter answered him, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." Jesus said to him, "Feed my lambs." He then said to Simon Peter a second time, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" Simon Peter answered him, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." He said to him, "Tend my sheep." He said to him the third time, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" Peter was distressed that he had said to him a third time, "Do you love me?" And he said to him, "Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you." Jesus said to him, "Feed my sheep. Amen, amen, I say to you, when you were younger, you used to dress yourself and go where you wanted. But when you grow old, you will stretch out your hands and someone else will dress you and lead you where you do not want to go." He said this, signifying by what kind of death he would glorify God. And when he had said this, he said to him, "Follow me." The Gospel of the Lord. As you recall, that scene in Gethsemane prior to Jesus' crucifixion was the moment when Peter 3 times denies Jesus. And we find at the conclusion of the text of John's account, actually a chapter that was added at the conclusion of the whole gospel story, chapter 21, where there's kind of an opportunity for Peter to make amends for these 3 times of denying. 3 times he's asked the question, "Do you love me? Do you have a relationship with me?" In each instance, of course, he ultimately says yes, but that relationship also suggests that there has to be some kind of concrete showing of what the relationship is. And so 3 times Jesus says to him, "Take care of the sheep, feed the sheep, do something, show by your actions that you are a follower of me." And it's interesting that John, or whoever the writer was of this particular chapter, ended up using very distinct words to make the point. It was in Greek, of course, this gospel text, and the words for love that were used were 2 different words. The one word was phileo, the other word was agapeo. And phileo is the kind of love you have for a friend, a relationship of some intimacy. Whereas agapeo is a real complete giving over to the other, a real self-sacrificing. And so when Jesus asked the question the first time, he says to Peter, "Do you love me?" Agape. And Peter answers back, "Yes, I love you," phile. Second time, the same thing happens. The third time, Jesus says, "Do you love me?" phile. And in so doing, it shows that the Lord more than often is willing to be at our pace where we can be in relationship with him as to oppose to what he would like him to be. And so he ends up giving in to Peter and says, "Do you love me?" philei. And at this point, Peter, realizing the ramifications of what is being asked, shifts his gears and says, "Yes, I love you," agape. Now, if we were to put it into English for us to understand, you can see perhaps more of the significance of what's being spoken. Jesus says to him, "Peter, do you love me?" And Peter says back in turn, "Lord, I like you." Second time, "Do you love me?" "Lord, I like you." Third time, "Do you like me?" "Lord, I love you." And it is a profession of faith on the part of Peter to make up for that moment of denial that took place in Gethsemane that begins the kind of the catalyst for his carrying out the missionary activity now for the church. That question in the course of our lives is asked of us oftentimes. We too are asked to give a response, and of course the hope is that ultimately we get to a point where we use the same vocabulary and the same understanding as Jesus does in making that response back to him.